Good morning and welcome to Onward in Love and Caregiving. I'm Greg Johnson. I'm the president and CEO of Greg Johnson Partnerships International, and I'm delighted to have you with me today. This is a program that I look forward to doing each year. But before we begin that, let's talk about what today is. Well, on the Julian calendar, it is Friday, December 15th. For our Jewish friends, this is the last day. It ends tonight at sundown of Hanukkah, because last night was the eighth night of Hanukkah, the celebration of light. And in the Christian church, on this Sunday will be something known as Rose Sunday, as we light the candles on the Advent wreath. This one is a beautiful, beautiful colored candle. And what's the difference? This is a time just to take a break from being very serious, supposedly, and reflective, and just having a time of great joy. Rose Sunday. You'll learn more about it, I'm sure, in your church. And then, of course, once we've had Christmas, it becomes Kwanzaa. And then the New Year. And with each of these traditions, with each of these theologies, that's a time of waiting, it's a time of expectation, and a time of looking back and reviewing who we are, where we have come from, what we have been doing, and looking toward the new year with new enthusiasm, with new goals, with new ideas, with willingness to let go of those things that truly do not serve us and pick up those things which offer new possibilities. And so, with that in mind, I'm going to do what I love to do each year. I usually do this in December. I am not selling anything, but as many of you know, I adore books, whether they're online or in the hard copies, which I tend to prefer, and which I have surrounding me right now as I speak to you from the bookshelves in the back to the shelves on either side of the desk. There are so many resources for us, and many of those resources, like support groups, have been started by people who went through a caregiving experience and they found something that was missing in their particular case. Because, as we've often said, caregiving doesn't have one size fits all. There are basic rules. Before I can care for you, I've got to care for myself. Yes. And we learn from each of those. But then we need education, we need resources, and we need support. But many of the books that I'm going to show you, as well as the other resources that are there, came from people like you and me, who, when we finished a particular journey in caregiving, as part of our ending that, of our giving finality to the experience that had been ours, we found something that was truly missing and that was helpful to us. One of the books was part of my journey of grief, as well as my journey of wanting to share something that I found lacking, something that wasn't there for me. And I thought, I could do that. And so I did it. Well, that has been true of so many of the people who are with us, and also so many of the people who do support groups. So, the first thing I want to talk about with you is the importance of support groups. If you're presently a caregiver, there is nothing that can be more helpful, and you can do it right online. Now, one of my favorites, and I'm totally prejudiced on this because I think she's one of the most brilliant ladies I know, and that is Reverend Marion Gambardella. And the first Saturday of every month, She does a caregiving support group through the auspices of the Marble Collegiate Church here in New York. And you can participate in that. And it's very simple. Just call the church, 212 686 2770. 212 686 2770, and ask for Judy Tulin. She will get you connected, she will get you registered, and you will have the opportunity once a month. It's online, yes, because Marion happens to live in Florida, but that's the thing, the gift. If there was to be a gift out of COVID, we learned how to communicate, stay in touch, and be very supportive. That's just one of many. In many of your areas, if you're looking for local support groups, the area agencies on aging, they're often known as the AAA, area agencies on aging. Just put that into your Google, and what will come up is a page in which they will ask for your zip code. And then once you've given your zip code, resources, unbelievable amounts of resources will come to you in many, many faces of family caregiving. Now, those are just a few, but also along with support groups, I urge you, if you're a former family caregiver, I used to use the term a veteran family caregiver. Well, many people thought I was only talking about military, and there is a huge, huge need for family caregivers within the military system for our wonderful, wonderful veterans. But when I used the term, I was talking about someone who had been through a family caregiving experience. You've learned a great deal, far more than you ever expected. I know it's true for me. No one could have told me that I was going to spend 25 years in the middle of a wonderful health and wellness corporation here in New York, a minister sitting in the middle of a health and wellness corporation, creating family caregiving for the corporation, for the employees, for the members, and because they are extremely generous, bless you, emblem, for the world. And yes, we've done a new program in Bali. I'm going to talk about that another day, but there's so much to share with you. In fact, we're working on a special where you will get to meet some of the founding members of the Sahaja Foundation, but more about that later. So, may I urge you, if you are a former caregiver and you've gone through a grieving process, you don't start in if it just happened or ended yesterday, because then you're going for the codependency and becoming the serial caregiver who goes from one to one to one. And you know, the person you don't care for is yourself, because you're getting busy being lost in the journey of others. That doesn't work. Ultimately, it will come crashing down on you. Take my word for it. I work with many who have done that. So give time, give yourself time, the gift of time. And then when you feel called, keep it in prayer. Then offer to lead a support group, perhaps at your church, your community center. Perhaps it'll be just a few people at first. That's how they usually begin. But they will grow, because we have caregivers galore. 53 million here in America alone. Now, once a year, I love to spend a bit of time with you talking about books, because books provide lots of information, and none of us goes to school to become a caregiver. Nobody talks about the word. No one has had experience with it until suddenly you're in the middle of the situation, and then you're rushing to find out more things. And once again, many of the books were written. They were written by people in the healthcare industry, in the caregiving world, who have had a particular experience and have a particular focus on family caregiving. Now, I want to begin with a medical item. And the reason I'm doing that is we have many people who watch this program. We have people from the full three-legged stool. We have people who are care recipients, and they may be a caregiver as well. We have people who are professional caregivers, doctors, nurses, home aides. These are professional caregivers who are dealing with disease. They are dealing with curing while caring. And then we of the third-legged stool, of the third leg of the stool, are the family caregivers who are dealing with care. We often talk about that. It's accepting just where it is for today. But as good caregivers, we do need to be knowledgeable about whatever the specific disease might be. And we need to be mindful of the traditions, of the religious beliefs, of the faith system of the person for whom we're caring. It may not indeed be the same as ours. Now, there's an organization that I love and adore. You have met Dr. Georgette Bennett, and you have met Reverend Mark Fowler on programs that we've done before. Dr. Bennett founded the Tannenbaum Center. And a number of years ago, this brilliant, brilliant book was first edited by Emblem Health in partnership with Tannenbaum. Now, this is a book that is totally available through Tannenbaum, TANENBAUM.org. I cannot recommend it enough. The medical manual for religio-cultural competency. Now, I'm going to say that again and try and get it right. The medical manual for religio-cultural competency. And it goes through, and it's absolutely a joy. It is designed to talk about religion and healthcare, how to understand patients, and then it goes through. Listen to this list: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, Shinti, traditional Chinese, American Indian and Alaskan natives, Afro-Caribbean traditions. What a wealth of information. Because in each segment, in each culture, there are specific ideas that those members hold dear to them and are part of the decision-making process that's going on with them. And they may not indeed articulate it, because most of us assume that what we know, everyone else knows. Well, it's not true. And you heard me read that huge list. Now, I've been privileged to be involved in many of those because of my work in Southeast Asia, in my work in South Africa, my work in Europe. But it's not always there. And I love this book. So the medical manual, that's all you'd need to say to Tannenbaum. They would know exactly what you're talking about. Tell them that Greg Johnson sent you. No, I don't get a commission or whatever, but they will know exactly the book of which I am talking. And it's available for purchase, and I urge you to consider it. Now, another book, and this one, I just had the fun of doing another program with a marvelous health insurance corporation here in New York called Health First. And one of my original colleagues from Emblem Health, Tamar Ogburn, is doing a brilliant, brilliant job of dealing with family caregiving within her corporation. And she invited several of us, old friends, including the wonderful Sheila Warnock, who wrote the book, Share the Care. And she's working on, for 2024, a brand new edition. This is a completely scripted group process. It is not for the caregiver or the care recipient to start, but rather for you and me as a friend of them, to go to them, to help them name and identify a group of persons who could be part of a Share the Care team. This is an incredible, incredible book. And I can't tell you how many places I have been in the world where people will say to me, have you ever met? Do you know? And I'm always proud to say, not only do I know, not only have I met, but I have had the great privilege of working with Sheila and consider her one of my dearest friends. So, folks, it's all there. There's nothing you have to do. It's also a wonderful book for congregations who want to be prepared when a caregiving situation occurs. I've often recommended this to congregations where if you have maybe 20 different groups within the church or the temple or the mosque, take one or two people, one or two persons, preferably two, from each of the organizations and create a share the care team in preparation. Meaning, you're going to work through this script, work through the process, have it ready and actively ready to go. Then, when someone needs the group, you've got a team of people ready to jump in. Share the care, Sheila Warnock. Another dear friend is someone who has gone through the grief process. It's been a while now, but she has made an incredible contribution to corporations. There's a wonderful book that she has out on corporate caregiving, grieving process. I recommend that highly, but I'm going to talk about two that are personal. Rachel, I always have to go slowly with her last name, Kodanaz, Kodanaz. Rachel, Rachel, Kodanaz, Kodanaz. This is one of my favorite books. I've used it personally, and I have used it many, many times professionally. Living with Loss, One Day at a Time. 365 pages worth gold, because in it is a daily reflection that as you are journeying, it walks with you. You aren't alone. And it's a very powerful, powerful addition to any other groups that you may belong to or work that you may be doing with a private therapist, with a grief counselor, with a clergy person, with a coach, whatever route works for you. But this is a lovely bedside guide when you're all alone. Can't recommend it enough. And then a couple of years ago, she wrote this one, and I just love it because it was something I had to do as well after my late husband, 12 years ago, Joe, died. And it took me a long time to empty things out, to let go, and to recreate a home that now belongs to Donnie and to me. And I've been very blessed. Joe is still felt in this house, but it's now our home. And the name of this book, and I love it, What to Do with Your and a Loved One's Personal Position. Finding Peace, Peace, one piece, Piece, at a time. Finding peace, one piece at a time. A brilliant, delightful, wonderful tool for you. Again, Rachel Kodanaz, Rachel Kodanaz. Cannot recommend it enough. And of course, the last two that I'm going to talk about, I could go on and on and on with this because I have found so much help with these. And all of these programs, everything on our What's Up line, everything that's on our, or I shouldn't say What's Up, on our YouTube, I think you can tell how well I am on that. Everything on our YouTube channel, everything on Facebook is about giving it out for you to use on your journey because I've found it helpful. Now, I spoke about earlier that as part of our grief journey, many of us, like Sheila, the writing of the book came after the death, really, of her partner. as a living legacy. And again, Sheila had no idea she was going to spend the rest of her life being one of the most influential influencers in family caregiving. Well, part of my journey was I had found prayer extremely helpful to me. And I use, because it's my tradition, prayers of all traditions, because I find each a pathway to the divine. And the divine is much too big to be consolidated into one theology. Each theology is wonderful, but pointing to the divine, the universe. For me, the Christ, in its biggest inclusive term. And so I used prayers that were of an inclusive nature for my own journey. But I didn't find a prayer book that could work for others. And so I had the great privilege of joining up with my dear friend, Marion Gambardella, who a year after Joe had died, lost her husband to death, the very famed singer Giovanni Concilio. And so Marion, who has been fabulous with affirmations and one of the leaders of unity movement here in America, working as the right hand, literally, of Dr. Eric Butterworth. And Marion and I decided we would do this book together. I wrote the prayers, she did the scripture, and she did the meditations. Yes, yeah, she did the meditations. I have to remember what's in my own book. And it's entitled Peace Be Still, Prayers and Affirmations for Family Caregivers. And Dr. Georgette Bennett, of whom I've spoken earlier from Tannenbaum, wrote this. She did one of the blurbs, as we call them, on the back. Peace Be Still is a deeply religious book in the best sense of that word. In their intensely compassionate way, Reverends Johnson and Gambardella have provided encouragement, and I love this phrase, and a divine shoulder on which to lean for those who give so much of themselves to care for loved ones. If that's what we've done, thank you. I am so thrilled, and it has been very much a popular book. It's available, and it's on that Kindle. You can tell how often I use that. It's on Kindle. It's in hard copy, paperback, and a hard copy. Peace Be Still. And then finally, the first thing I ever wrote in partnership with the National Alliance of Family Caregiving. It was a publication done by Emblem Health and by National Alliance of Family Caregiving. And it's entitled, the best title I know, Care for the Family Caregiver, A Place to Start. You say, where do I begin? That's the most common question I hear. And it's the perfectly honest reaction because no one thought about it. And if you did, you quickly put it out of your mind and thought, no, that's not me today. So, Care for the Family Caregiver, A Place to Start. Hundreds of thousands of copies have been given by Emblem Health, and I am deeply grateful to them, and they're still available. I am going to be posting with this talk the links for the English, the Spanish, and the Chinese. Caregiving is not hindered or kept for one group of persons. And that's what's so wonderful. What is so wonderful? We are united in family caregiving. It is the reason I love to use it with corporations, because suddenly people who are each doing their own silo, and we hear about that all the time, are brought together by that common journey of family caregiving and learning from one another. It forms an incredibly powerful and stable platform of unity. It's also something that I use with all faith traditions. Were I to have a representative of every person in that wonderful manual from Tannenbaum, the gift is I would not talk about religion. I wouldn't talk about culture. I would talk about family caregiving. Tell me your story and yours. Yes, yours too. And as we listen, we find all the things that bring us together. We find light and we find love. What is this season about? It's a season of light and love. May you be surrounded by it. May you live in it. May you rejoice in it and be blessed by it. And as we always say, onward in love and caregiving. Namaste. God bless. I look forward to seeing you real soon. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful week and joyous holidays.